I was very scared and shaking at that time. I wanted to leave, but did not know where to seek help, said Putri.
In 2019, Putri, a 20-year-old Indonesian, started her first foreign work in Hong Kong. Her female employer ordered her to give her husband a massage just days after she started working, during which he touched her breasts. He tried to rape her on a living room sofa where she slept at the night in the days that followed. Oh my God.
I tried to stop him, but he was very strong, she said.
Putri was forced to work from 5:30 a.m. to midnight because the living room sofa served as her bed, and she could only sleep once her employers had finished watching television in the evening.
Putri found out she was pregnant in March and went to the doctor with the wife of the house where she worked. She claimed that her employers told her that if she didn't seek an abortion, she would lose her job.
Sadly, discrimination against or abuse towards foreign domestic helpers within the workplace is fairly common. According to the MFMW Service Report 2020, 70% of their residents reported experiencing ill treatment.
In relation to this, 20% experienced physical abuse. Employers or agencies also often take advantage of them in regards to money, frequently overcharging or demanding the payment of illegal fees. 97% of responders attested to this.
According to one survey, allegations of sexual assault and harassment against employees at work increased in 2020, while another indicated that 40,000 of them were given no leisure days during the pandemic in Hong Kong. Following official guidelines to stay locked up at home to avoid the spread of the coronavirus, domestic workers in Hong Kong have seen an increase in physical and sexual abuse, including rape.
So how did this all happen? What makes the relationship of employers and foreign domestic helpers unequal? To understand this, we first need to understand the historical context of domestic helpers from foreign countries.
During the 1970s, Hong Kong was prospering economically. The working population became busier than ever, leading to an increased need for domestic helpers in order to take care of the children or elderly.
At the same time, the Philippines was faced with a poor economy, and in 1974, the president implemented a labor code that allowed the exploitation of labor in the form of overseas workers.
One of the main factors of the power imbalance between employers and domestic workers is the difference in their incomes. Employers are typically more well off while domestic workers rely on their employers for pay. However, here in Hong Kong, demand for domestic helpers is particularly high, leading to higher wages and thus making it a more attractive job.
Oftentimes, foreign domestic helpers sign contracts that they do not fully understand, or with clauses that are vague and non-specific, which leads to situations where the domestic worker may be unable to refute the employer or protest based on contractual grounds.
There are also many other factors such as gender imbalance, racism, or prejudice, and therefore as a whole, foreign domestic helpers may be viewed as inferior.
In order to better understand the situation in Hong Kong nowadays, we conducted interviews with random members of both general public and foreign helpers themselves. During the interviews, most foreign domestic helpers stated that they themselves haven't experienced the ill treatment, but had heard of many cases.
Moreover, the results show that the longer the domestic helpers have spent in Hong Kong, the greater the amount of discrimination they have faced. Even though many claim to only have heard of such incidents, some who have worked for longer report facing discrimination. One of the interviewees who has worked for 20 years in Hong Kong answered that she has faced discrimination, such as some shops charging foreign domestic helpers more for certain products in comparison to the price local citizens have to pay.
Other interviewees reported discrimination within the workplace, stating that sometimes employers would treat her badly, such as giving her different food to eat or overworking her. However, some domestic helpers that have not been working in Hong Kong for a long time have not reported facing any kind of discrimination. So, we believe that it is safe to say that although discrimination against domestic helpers does exist in Hong Kong, not everyone shares the same views.
This is contrasted by the replies we were given by the members of the general public. Most replied that they had heard of such incidents, but felt that domestic helpers deserved the same treatment as anyone else.
However, There was a notable difference between the amount of domestic helpers and the general public we managed to interview. Assuming we interviewed roughly the same amount of people in the same amount of time, it was to our surprise that we faced much more rejections when interviewing Hong Kong citizens than when we interviewed the domestic helpers. This shows that Hong Kong citizens are usually more conservative about this topic and would rather not make opinions regarding it.
When helpers are facing trouble as in how their employers treat them, they can seek help from various agencies and organizations. One of the most major and official organizations here in Hong Kong is the Philippines Consulate. Another is one we mentioned previously, the MFMW, Mission for Migrant Workers.
As foreign domestic helpers employed in Hong Kong are mostly Filipinos, the Philippine Consulate takes the issue of abuse of foreign domestic helpers very seriously. If the helpers find themselves in an environment where being abused or mistreated, they can first contact the Philippine Consulate or consulate of their own country for assistance and refuge back home.
Another remarkable organization is the MFMW, the Mission for Migrant Workers. Established in 1981, the MFMW is fundamental towards building support for migrant workers in Hong Kong. They help the migrant community by accompanying them to court, providing legal assistance, as well as providing medical services, shelter, and food to those in need. The organization also teaches foreign domestic workers about their rights in their work contracts and basic life skills within Hong Kong. As 99% of the domestic helpers here in Hong Kong are women, they have also introduced a gender-specific program for women, solving problems aimed at the female gender.
Now that you have learned more about how foreign domestic helpers are treated in Hong Kong, have your thoughts and feelings about foreign domestic helpers changed? If you are a foreign helper, did the information about the different organizations inspire or help you?
Please feel free to type in your opinions in the comment section below.
Remember to finish filling in the survey. Thank you!